All right, so thank you once again. The approach that we're going to take is we're going to cover a question and the video, cover the next question, and the video, cover the next question, and on, right? So we're not going to cover more than one question in any of the videos. Reason being, our videos will become shorter, which is appetizing, right? Instead of having longer videos, because if you have longer videos, students will not pass or will not enjoy watching those videos, right? So even if it's a 15 minutes, even if it's a 30 minutes, 45 minutes, the maximum that we'll try to have is an hour long, all right? Of which I think the longest we've had so far is an hour 6 minutes, all right? The one that we recorded yesterday, all right? So these are two papers, right? The first one is question 2. They're not taking the multiple choice, all right? And my assumption is there's a specific reason why Scott gave you these particular special exams, these particular papers, right? Now, you would notice that there is a difference between the module pre-Scott and from the time that Scott took over this particular module. Scott is a very detailed and thorough person, and therefore I respect him for that, right? With Scott, you are guaranteed that things will be done properly. He is thorough, okay? So now you'll see that these are his specific exams that he set, right? And that's why there are solutions to these papers. Pre-Scott papers are there with no solutions that have been given to students. And that's why I'm busy developing that question bank with the solutions pre-Scott, all right? Now, we're going to look at the 2020 special exam first, that question of the dividend policies, right? Now, you guys can go back to your assignments again on your own because you've got solutions for that. And everything that's in the solution we're covering in these papers as well. There's no need for me to do those solutions. You can still go back to our videos for the assignments, yes, right? But there's no need for me to redo the assignments with you. That's what I think. But if you have a different thought, please let me know, okay? Right, I read. Store-Inc. is a multinational group of listed companies where the parent company is located in the UK. Store-Inc. develops and manufactures energy storage devices to remain competitive. Store-Inc. invests heavily in research and development where designs and technical specifications are constantly updated and changing. Store-Inc. has 31 March as its financial year end. Financial data for the last 3 years is given below. So this is in pounds, right? And these are millions of pounds, right? Dividend, 120, 160, 170. Profit after tax, 300, 100. Depreciation included in profit and loss, 100, 100, 120. Ongoing capital expenditure, 160, 700, 300. Okay. Long-term borrowings, 2 billion, 1.8, 2 billion, 2.09 billion, right? Share price 4, 3.5, 3. The share price is dropping. Okay. On April 2017, right? That is the year before, or beginning of year 2018, right? That is April 2017, right? Store inject 600 million shares in issue, right? On 1 April 2018, right, which is beginning of year 2019, there was a 1-for-3 rights issue at an issue price of 3.2 pounds per share. There were no other changes to share capital in the 3-year period shown above. Excuse me. Assume that depreciation is the only non-cash item included in profit or loss after tax above. Large institutions such as pension fund, insurance companies, and investment vehicles hold over 2/3 of the shares, right? These are speculative investors, right? Right. They want dividends every time. These kind of investors, right? They are not patient because remember, they want to be paying out every now and again, and therefore they need to be given dividends every time. The remaining shares are held by private individuals and directors of the company, right? Analyze Strong Inch's dividend policy in the years 2018, 19, 2020 based on the data provided, right? Support your answers with calculations of dividend cover based on profit or loss after tax, dividend per share, then free cash flow generated in the year before dividend payments. So let's start by calculating these. So we want, okay, I'm going to give you access to the board right now. And I'm sure you all have this, right? You all have this, which means I'm just going to use my phone as well. Just a moment. Right. Okay. So we are saying we have been requested to calculate the dividend cover, which is profit after tax or earnings over dividends or earnings per share over dividend per share, right? But based on the information that we are given, right? If we calculate EPS and DBS, right? Here we've been only requested to calculate the dividend per share, but no request for the earnings per share, and therefore this would waste time, right? So if we are to calculate the dividend cover, right? The first thing that we need to do is let's start with the dividend per share, right? Now we've been given that on 1 April 2017, number of shares was 600, right, million. 1 April 2018, a 1 for every 3 rights issue was issued, which means an additional 200 shares or 200 million shares plus your 600 gives us 800. So we now have 800 shares there. No other shares were issued during the 3 years. So we also have got 800. So this is number of shares, right? Then dividend per share, dividends was 120, 160, and 170, am I right? Divided by 600, divided by 800, and divided by 800. Okay, so this gives us 120 over 600 gives us 0.20, or you can say 20 cents, right? Then 160 over 800 also gives us a 0.2 or 20 cents, right? Then 170 over 800 gives us 0.21 or 21 cents. Okay. So we've done the dividend per share, then the dividend cover, right? Dividend cover, DC, is calculated as profit, of which we've got 300 as profit. What was the next amount of profit?
300.
900. It was 300 again.
300.
And negative 100 divided by the dividends, which is 120, 160, and 170, right? So this will give us 300 over 120 gives us 2.5. This is times, right? Because it's a cover ratio. 300 over 160, it's 1.88 times, right? Then negative 100 divided by 170, it gives us negative 0.59 times. All right. So this is the calculation of the dividend per share and dividend cover, right? Now, the next calculation that we had been requested to calculate is the free cash flow, right? So the free cash flow, remember, has to ignore the non-cash item, right? And we've been told that depreciation is the only non-cash item that is there. So we start with our profit, right? 300, 300, and minus 100, right? And then we add back depreciation, which is 100, 100, 100, and less CapEx, capital expenditure, right?
Jonas,
Yes.
Under 2020, the depreciation is 120.
120, thank you. 120. Then the capital expenditure, the question says the capital expenditure is 160 in year 2018, right? It's 700 in 2019, and it's 300 in 2020, right? Okay, so in this case, we have, okay, that's 240, right? Free cash flow, right? Then this is minus 300, right? And this is, okay, that's 4, minus 280. Okay. So after having calculated these ratios that we've been requested to calculate, because remember, this is the financial performance measurement topic, right? So now we are looking at the dividends. Okay. Now we are adding back the non-cash item because they want the free cash flow. There's a difference between earnings and free cash flow or free earnings. Now, the free cash flow or free earnings have to take or add back the non-cash items because they are not cash. Depreciation is a non-cash expense, and therefore it has to be added back. In other words, you do not pay depreciation. You do not spend money on depreciation, but it's just a non-cash item, so we need to add it back. I hope that's clear. Right. So once we get the free cash flow, we got the dividend per share, we got the dividend cover. The next thing now is to determine what dividend policy we have, right? So the dividend policy here is what dividend policy? Who can tell me what is the dividend policy here? And the dividend policy is measured by the dividend per share, right? What is the dividend policy here?
When I share the dividends, they actually look consistent every year.
Yes.
So I would think it's a consistent one, a constant one.
Constant payout policy. So constant payout policy. All right. So that is the dividend policy that we have. However, the question is asking us to analyze, right, this constant payout policy, right? So this constant, let me read again the question. The question reads, analyze Store-Inc.'s dividend policy in these 3 years based on the data provided. So just stating that it's a constant payout policy is not enough. An analysis is when we go further to see the relevance of this dividend policy given the conditions that the company is exposed to. So in this case, we've got falling profits, right? Inconsistent free cash flows, or falling free cash flows, right? With huge capital expenditure. So you are supposed to mention those elements in your analysis. The company seems to be declining in terms of performance, right? Which is evident by the dropping free cash flow, right? Dropping dividend cover, right? And falling profits, as well as huge capital expenditures, right? Now, despite having those negative conditions, the company still, or the directors of the company still have the audacity to declare consistent or constant payout in terms of dividend, right? If it was me who had set this paper, right, perhaps I would have also slotted in the urgency theory, right? And certain aspects around non-financial objectives, right? But that's not the case, right? So, having said that, we are saying this constant payout policy is not aligned to the performance of the company and therefore is inappropriate. We have analyzed now. Okay. So you do not have to write the exact same words, but the thought process should be in that way. Are we together? Right.
Yes.
Any questions before we look at the next question, the B part? All right. Now, the next question requires us to discuss, advise Inch on the benefits and drawbacks of the current dividend policy. Right. Now, you will ask questions after I have said a few words. Now, having a consistent dividend policy, right, in terms of benefits, may benefit the investors. And remember, you need to apply it to the scenario at hand, right? Now, having a constant dividend payout policy benefits the nature of the investors that we have. The majority of our investors are speculative investors, right? And therefore, they will constantly have good performance in their companies. Also, it may have a positive connotation, right, on the performance of the company. Despite the fact that the company is not performing well, it may then result in a positive effect on the company's market capitalization, right? Meaning that the securities of the company on the stock exchange may trade okay, may trade well, since this constant payout policy will give investors and potential investors a positive view of the company. All right. Now, as a drawback or as drawbacks, this constant payout policy may actually cripple the company's cash flows in the long run, right? Resulting in the company failing to achieve the main objective of creating wealth for the company. Now, this is evident with the dropping of the share price. Now, if you look at the question, it shows us that the share price has been dropping. In 2018, the share price was £4, right? It went on to become £3.5, right? Which went on to become £3. So every year upon year, the company's share price is dropping, right? which may be as a result of this particular dividend policy that is crippling the prospects of the company. All right. Any questions?
Hello, Naphtali.
I, Lalun.
In this specific question, in 2.1, if we analyze that the company used a different dividend policy, and we came to 2.2 and we listed the benefits and drawbacks of the one which we thought was what the company used, will it mean that you will be marked incorrectly?
Sorry, okay, if you, I didn't get that fully. You said if you do what?
In 2.1, if I analyze that the company used a different dividend policy other than the constant payout. And
Well,
then
which
to
dividend
2.2,
policy would you have suggested, if not the constant payout?
I'm just making an example.
Oh, okay. It depends with the scenario, right? You really have to justify based on the calculations that you would have made. So it would be difficult to come up with a particular particular dividend policy without justifying based on the dividend per share. And remember, you do not only consider the dividend per share, you also consider other ratios. Because in certain instances, it could be a residual payout policy, right? So it would need justification based on your calculations. So as long as your calculations justify your solution, you will be marked. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
It's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, right. Discuss possible alternative dividend policies that Store-Eng could adopt and implement. Okay, we spoke of one, which is the residual dividend payout. What else? Zero payout. What else? Anyone?
Fixed, the stable one.
The stable one is the constant dividend payout.
No dividends policy.
Anyone?
Can't we pay out dividends based on the profits?
What do you call that one?
That's the, it's like a percentage of profit.
Yes, percentage payout.
Yeah.
Right? The percentage payout based on the profits that would have been made. So there's a percentage payout policy, there's a residual payout policy, there's a zero payout policy that could also be adopted instead of a stable or constant payout policy. All right. Any questions? Right. Lastly, discuss the interrelationship, discuss the interrelationship between financing decisions, investment decisions, and dividend decisions. And remember, this has to be a follow-on or has to be applied based on the scenario. Right? Now, remember, we discussed this again. We had this again in another question in the 2017 paper that we have looked at. I don't know who can elaborate on this. All right. Let's proceed. Who wants to explain the interrelationship among the three major financial decisions and paying particular attention to the situation that we have in this company? Can I tell you a secret? The secret is communication skill, the ability to present, is one important aspect when you're an employee. It actually may increase your chances of getting promotions, especially for senior positions. So who wants to be our CFO now? Who can be our CFO? Come on, guys, you can do this. Yes, Violet. Okay, suppose today you get the CFO's position at the company you work in, or you work at rather, and they ask you to give a presentation given the similar situations. What would you say? Would you be the most incompetent CFO in the history of the world? Or would you be able to present? Come on, guys, don't embarrass me.
Menashe,
Yes, Santia.
I would think of, like, for example, if you have a company, if you're working for a company, you'd want to think about how do you want to, like if you're taking on projects, for example, how would you finance that?
Can you
Like
apply
investments.
to this scenario? Let's say you have been appointed now as the new CFO of Store Energy.
Yeah.
Given the situation that the company is at, and they ask you to discuss the interrelationship among these three finance decisions, what would you say?
I think that should you decide to, for instance, choose to invest a part of your business, you would need to look at the financing and both the dividend decisions in terms of the three are all related. So you would look at how you would be financing, you would be taking your finances in order to invest. And that could come from debt and cash within the company. So depending on how well they are doing, they can see based on their financing, if they are in position to make a decision to invest or to maybe are they in a position to give out dividends or not at that time. So the three work together. Now that's as far as I'm willing to go.
So you mean what you guys are telling me would give you 8 marks?
Okay, I can try
No.
and add. I can try and add.
Yes, please.
So,
Please do.
I'm adding on what they have said. So I'm looking at the earnings. I think the earnings from 2018, which is 300 million, and then 2019, 300 million, and then 2020, which is a negative 100. For me, it shows that they do not have enough funds to finance like the capital investment that they want to make. So already, I mean, they don't have enough earnings in order for them to be able to cover all the investments that they have in mind.
Okay, thank you, but still it's shallow.
Can I try?
Yes, please.
Considering that they have a constant payout policy and the company doesn't have enough funds, each year they have to pay the dividends, but they don't have enough money. So they must opt another financing option like debt, which is not more expensive than equity financing.
Okay. All right. That's a little bit bad-ish. Right. Can I give you a hint? Okay. Violet here is saying the directors maintain a consistent dividend policy, even though the share price is declining, indicating that the company is not doing well, also evidenced by the free cash flow. Therefore, they are jeopardizing the wealth of the shareholders. Yes, it's almost there, right? But still shallow. Right. To do well, I would suggest a calculation of certain ratios. Sorry. So I'm reading the question from my phone so that I don't have to constantly, so that I don't have to affect the screen. All right. Now, here's one thing that you need to consider. The company issued a rights issue, or they issued a rights issue, right? So why don't we calculate theoretical X right price? Right? How do we calculate TAP? Anyone? Come on, guys, how do we calculate TAP?
It's the market value
Market
of
value,
the share of the shares.
market value or market price
Plus the proceeds from the new rights issue.
So it's current value, current price, current share price, right?
Yes.
Plus
The proceeds from the new rights issue.
proceeds from rights issue.
Over the total number of shares after the rights issue.
Okay. Total shares X rights. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, if there are any positive NPV, right, of projects, but in this case, we have not been given such information, right? So we can say £4 multiplied by 800 million plus, they were issued at what? 3.2 times 200 million over 800 million. Are we together? This gives us, am I right here? No. 4, no, it was 600, right? You should tell me. 4 times 600 plus 3.2 times 200 divided by 800, which gives us 3.8 million. Now, you would want to compare this with the prevailing share price at that particular point in time. All right? We're not done with the calculations. The other thing that you may need to calculate is the gearing, right? In 2018, 2019, and 2020, we calculate the gearing. Now, you may choose either to use the debt equity or the debt over debt plus equity. But in this case, let's just use the debt equity, right? Here, debt we are given to be debt, it was 2 billion over 4 times 600, right? This gives you 83.33%, all right? Then it dropped to 1820 over 3.5 times 800, right? It gives us 65%, right? In 2020, we have 2090 over 3 times 800. Do we agree with these calculations? We get 87%. Right. Now, let's plan our answer well. All right. Let's give a background of the interrelationship between the 3 major financial decisions. Now, we understand that investments and dividend decisions have got an antagonistic type of a relationship, right? Since they both depend on the available finances that the company has at its disposal, all right? A high investment, a high investment will result in a compromise in the dividends declared, whereas a high dividend will compromise the nature of investment or the amount to be distributed through investment, right? In this company's situation, right, in situation, we do see that the organization is unprofitable and yet has the need for high capital expenditure, which means that this company should be financed by the available retained earnings of the company. Since the company is already highly geared, as shown by the debt equity ratios, right? If I were to test you on this one, I would have allocated about 15 to 20 marks on this discussion alone. Right? So we see that the company is already highly geared, and therefore the capacity of borrowing is actually very low. And therefore the company cannot depend on debt capital. Otherwise, it will further affect the company's weighted average cost of capital, right? And the company's share price, All right. Alternatively, since the company is highly geared, it may have to issue additional shares, which will result in a drop in the gearing, but will give the company more disposable cash for capital expenditure. In this situation, it would be advisable for the company to suspend dividend declaration since the company is not being profitable, especially in 2020. 2019, there was a high capital expenditure of 700 million, right? And the company only made a profit of 300 million. At that point, the company had generated more income from the issue of shares of 960 million. This calculation here gave us 960 million. From the 960 million, they made an additional profit of 300 million. So the total amount that was available was 1,260. 700 went to CapEx, right? Then we had a dividend declaration of, was it 160 or whatever the case might be, right? So the company did have money, right? However, given that it had a need for more capital expenditure in future, it would have been advisable for this company to suspend its dividend declaration. All right. So that is the nature of the relationship that you need to explain there. All right. Then on tap, can you kindly explain how you got 4.6 million? No, it's not 4.6 million. It's 4 multiplied by 600 million, right? And then it's 3.2 multiplied by 200 million, right? The 600 million were the shares that were issued initially. And then the 200 million, remember, is the one for 3 shares issued. All right. And the prices, this was given, this was also given. So you see the line of discussion that you should have taken, and it's a more practical application based on the scenario at hand. Any questions? All right. So this takes us to the end of our first session. All right. We will try to resume at 11. Thank you.